We say in our house, you're not learning to fail, you're actually learning to grow.
And you should always fail forward.
Mm-hmm.
That is the one lesson that I've learned from some of my partners, is like, fail forward. Don't look at failure as, oh my God, you stopped and this sucks. It's like, no, you're going to fail.
That's right.
Because if you don't continue to fail, you're never going to learn to perfect it. And it's the one thing that I try to go over with my kids, because everybody wants to talk about, oh, well, I had this happen to me as a child, and this happened to me in life, and this happened to me. And I'm like, okay. And my two oldest sons love anime, right? Which I'm like, is that hentai? I'm like, oh no, different. And so, and I'm like, one of the most deadly weapons ever made in history happens to be the katana, the samurai sword. And if you understand what it takes to make this amazing weapon, you take steel and you throw it in the fire and you get it really freaking hot, and you take it out and you pound the hell out of it, and you throw it back in the fire and you heat it up, and damn near melts. You take it out and you pound the hell out of it again. You throw it back in the fire. You do this a few times. And then after you take it out of the fire, you start grinding it, just grinding down on it. And through this process, two things happen. You either break it and it collapses and crumbles. You have to start over, or it's forged into something that is damn near indestructible and becomes a weapon that everybody on earth knows that if the right person is possessing that, you're losing the battle. Because regardless of how many times you shoot them, if they're within 20 to 30 feet, you're dead. That's life. You will be forged by the fire, the furnace that you're given, or you're going to collapse and crumble. You choose. You can make excuses over your environment, or you can sit back on that walk and go, damn, I'm going through some shit right now. But if you realize that that's part of your journey, that you're forging your perfect peace, that you get to a point eventually where you pause, and the only way that you understand your real view is to change your perspective. So if you have a different perspective and you pause and you look back and you go, well, that's why I did this. Because it's not about you. If the three principles are walk, teach, heal, as you're on that walk, the only way that you can become a good teacher is through experience. It's through what you've learned and what you've been through, which gives you that perspective that allows you to work with someone else or teach someone else. And then through that same process, you learn that you can heal. But then you also have the ability to heal others. And that's the part that's lost in our belief system here, is the fact that, yeah, Christ was the example. He was the teacher. And they're like, but he healed people. And I'm like, yeah, and how do you think we're made? We do the same thing if you understand who made you.
Let's go.
And that's that fun part of this journey and this process, is just own it and know you're a badass, because God made you for a reason.
And he only made one, baby.
Yeah,
he only made one.
We're one of one.
I heard one of my Brooke Thomas said from the stage one time, and it's very powerful. She said, "I believe that the definition of impact is when you take your God-given uniqueness and apply it to the marketplace."
Yes.
And I was like, love that. I was like, that couldn't have
I
said
own
that any
it.
better. That's right. That's right.
It's like, okay, noted.
That's exactly right. And it's and you just, again, you guys just keep. Well, I was always taught income is the outcome, not the objective, right? And you guys are living.
Income is a byproduct of service. Outcomes create income. It's the one thing that I try to teach. It is the foundation to products. It is the foundation to businesses or service. If you produce outcomes, regardless of what it is, if you produce outcomes, you're going to make income, because if you're producing quality outcomes, someone's going to find value in producing those outcomes. The byproduct of that is the acquisition of whatever product or service it is that produces those outcomes. The medium primarily used in that is paying for it in some way or another, which produces income. It's linear mathematics, but if you're ADD, you understand that. If you're not, you're like, wait a minute, is that 1 + 1 + 3 equal what? But those of us that are functioning properly go, I get that.
Dude, all I'm hearing is like, I've never heard growth defined as just your ability to solve problems, but that is how you grow, isn't it? Right? Yeah. By solving problems. And again,
and experiencing the problems. You can't be afraid to go through or experience problems or trauma or life.
That's
right? Because life ain't easy. I mean, try being a gazelle in the middle of Africa. You're going to have some trauma, right? And we had one of the college basketball players I used to train a long time ago. He's from Liberia, one of the most physical freaks I've ever met. And when we met Wu, I was talking to him about his childhood, growing up in Liberia. He's like, when we were at home, we would go out at night and we would find the big tree, and the lion would be sleeping at the bottom of the tree, and we would sneak up on the lion. And we would sneak up on him and we would smack him in the nuts. And then we would run and we would hear the lion go, oh. I'm like, you have a different perspective on life that I might want to try at some point. And like, my childhood was, I'm going to take some roosters and some flies and go down to the creek and try to catch some fish. And you're smacking lions in the nuts. And my outcome was, I might catch fish, I might not. Yours is, if you do it wrong, you might be a meal.
I just added an item to my bucket list I didn't know I needed.
Yeah, right? You're like, okay, we're going on an African safari, babe. You're staying home tonight. What are we doing? We're smacking lions in the nuts.
That's right.
Who's coming with me? And even the locals are going, nope. It's like, Jeff tried to do that. He's not here anymore.
I'm just envisioning that scene in Cars where they go tractor tipping,
Yeah.
and then they run from them.
See, that would have been the outtakes that Larry the Cable Guy is going, smack!
That's right. He's right.
Like, which one was that? That was the race car. It's like, all right, cool.
Well, Clayton, so a couple things. First of all, again, we got to continue the conversation. I have to have the Root brands in our life. I want to help promote it. I want all the people that keep up with what old Nick's doing to know as much about it as possible and have access to it. Because I truly believe in it. That was the whole purpose for bringing you here. You guys were nice enough to expose me to it, and it was like, dude.
See, and this is the cool part, is I can expose myself and not get arrested.
That's right. Well, so all right.
It's like, you exposed yourself to me and I liked it.
It is. So that's the joke Brad always says when he's talking about virtual training. He's like, if you just show people videos, you're exposing them, not training them. He's like, an exposure will get you arrested, unless you're old Nick over there, because then there's lack of evidence.
But that's also why he's in Vegas.
That's right.
Right? He's like, exposure here is actually just part of the process.
That's right.
Come to Nashville, and it's the same. The difference is there's 7 women for every guy. And you're like...
Well, dude, it's again, it's absolutely fantastic. You're one of those people that it's like, all right, man, once a quarter we got to come in here. I got to know what's going on, what you guys doing, because I feel like it's just every quarter, like life change. You guys are into so many new things.
Well, here's what I want to do. We'll do a challenge. What foundations or organizations do you like to support? What's the mission behind what you guys are doing? So
it's diverse. So the biggest place. So obviously, we love to give back to the community through a lot of the places. New Hope Community Church here in Nashville. Pastor Josh Heisman, they do a great job. We love supporting a lot of those the missions that the church is behind. Sandlot Sports is a local 501c3 that my dad and I operate that gives back to local youth area baseball, as well as the Old Timers Baseball Association. Same thing. Our 87th banquet's in a couple weeks. We're giving out scholarships and everything else. The other 2 big ones, the Sentinel Foundation, right, fighting against child trafficking.
Sentinel. Yes, that's
They're doing it. They're going and getting them.
What's her name? The head of Sentinel. I've got her number. I don't have my phone on me.
So, and Matt Murphy. Some of the videos
that they've done. She was here. She was showing me some of the videos they had of being down on the border with what they're doing with drones and showing people come across the border and what's going on. If people actually got to see the stuff that they're seeing, it would make their stomach turn.
Oh, the original CEO and president, Matt and Glenn, have been on the show multiple times. Matt was literally just in the chair a couple weeks ago. So we're all in on that. And then in the Tim Shaw Foundation, T. Shaw Strong. That's where most of our stuff goes.
So here's what we're gonna do, and we're gonna put our money where our mouth is.
Okay.
Because we're going to create the account for you for the show, but then here on some of these links, we're going to create links specific for each of those organizations. So if people listen to this and they're like, yo, I want to try this stuff, that 15+% of whatever's purchased residually is going to go to each of those organizations.
Dude, I want to start cutting ads. Like, I want to run them all over the place. You know what I'm saying?
And this is the point of finding causes and finding aligned missions, is saying, look, yeah, we have these things, they're great, but here's how we apply these in different areas. But the revenue from these can go to support causes, and should, like with what Sentinel's doing. And especially with what they were doing in North Carolina. I mean, they were bringing in Chinooks and some of the stuff. And what's crazy is what we're hearing a lot of is some of the special operations community with what they've been doing. And what's crazy is our cousin, Brett, who was my crazy cousin, because we grew up in the country.
He's the crazy one. All right, I got to meet that guy.
So get this quick story on this. So my cousin, he would come down on our shooting range, and he would be out with the AKs. You know, we'd be shooting, having fun. He's the one rolling on the ground, shooting targets and everything. And both of my uncles, my dad's brothers, were both Navy pilots. So my cousin, being the crazy one, he was a swimmer in high school and played soccer. Ended up getting accepted to go to the Naval Academy. So went to the Naval Academy. Ended up in BUDS 226. So went through BUDS because he could swim really good and he's kind of a beast. He had no problem going through BUDS. Ends up on Team 2 and Team 10. And one of the last times we saw him, we were all together for Thanksgiving. And this is a perspective that I don't think anyone's heard in the story, and I'm gonna have him pulled to talk about this. But so I can remember being together, and he had all these photos laid out on the counter. And there's all these red triangles in this ravine and stuff. And I'm like, Brett, what is this? He said, well, this is just declassified so we can talk about it. He said, but we had this op in Afghanistan, and one of the twins had a couple guys that got disconnected and things went bad. One of the twins, Marcus Luttrell, had to go into evasion, and shit went bad. Ended up running down this hill. Taliban chasing him. Ends up hiding in this Afghani village. And the Afghanis, their culture is they will shelter a foreigner. It's what they do. And the Taliban came down and was like, "Look, we want the American. We will be back in the morning." And they're like, "No one here. He ain't here." And they're like, "We'll be back in the morning." And they came back the next morning with a bunch of cash. It was like, "We want the American," because they knew what they were going to do to him, because they'd already killed the 3 others. And they're like, "He ain't here." And so they came back that afternoon, like, "We want the American, and we're killing everybody if you don't." And they're like, "No." And so they sheltered him, and then he went through this story of how they extracted him and how things went bad. And my cousin was in a Chinook, and the other Chinook got shot down. And I'm like, "Oh, shit, that's nasty." He's like, "Yeah, it went really bad." And so a couple years go by, and this movie comes out, Lone Survivor, Mark Wahlberg. It's a great story. I'm watching this movie, and I'm like, "Yo, Brett, am I watching what happened?" He's like, "Yeah, that was it." I'm like, "So you're alive because the dude with the RPG shot the one on the left and not the one on the right?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "That's some gangster shit, bro." And so I was talking to him last week. I'm like, because he finished in the teams because he's got a couple kids. His wife is in the Air Force. She outranks him, so she's an analyst for the agency. And he tried to go in the agency, but he was too honest. It was amazing. He failed his lie detector test for the agency because he was too honest. Yeah. And they're like, "You can't do this." He's like, "Why not?" They're like, "You have to learn to lie, bro." Yeah. But he's like, "Well, screw this. I'm going into medicine." So he went to medical school, finished his MD, talked to him last week. I'm like, "Brett, what's going on?" I'm like, "You done medical school?" Because we haven't done a good job of staying connected to all of my family because we've been so busy. He's like, "Yeah, I finished my MD." He said, I'm in New York right now in the Bronx, working with disadvantaged kids with psychiatry because I'm doing a psych residency." He's like, "Bro, did you see all the stuff on psychedelics?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "I was one of the 3 active operators to do MDMA and psilocybin to deal with all the stuff that we went through." And he's like, "You know about ibogaine? Now it's a big thing, and we're working with Beyond, have been since last year, and building our collab with them." He's like, "I'm the guy." I'm like, "Hold on. So you were on Team 10, you served in Operation Red Wing, and you're the only one of this group that's actually become an MD with a psych background and has done all these things that everyone is talking about. You're from the teams, and now you're a doctor. And I was like, of course you were. And this is why I had to reach out to my cousin at this time because of what's going on. I'm like, oh, of course this is how this played out. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting because of, the importance of giving, but also how to create value. Because when you have these service professionals that's literally sacrifice everything. Mm-hmm. And you can look at it for first responders too. I mean, because I never worked in that environment because, as I went over before, I'm oppositionally defiant. I don't take orders very well if I don't agree with them. Mm-hmm. And you have a bunch of guys that are the highest level adrenaline junkies that you can find. I mean, you talk about ultimate cowboys. Mm-hmm. But what do they do when they're done? Mm. They have to find purpose, mm-hmm. right? They have to find a way to still be of service in aspects, right. And being able, like what Sentinel's doing now, and some of my other friends and probably some people that are doing some of those same things in this area around what Sentinel's doing. But knowing that each of us, we have our initial path. It's like playing sports, right? You're an athlete, and mm-hmm. then there comes the time where you don't get to be an athlete anymore, mm-hmm. right? What are you really going to do? Mm-hmm. And figuring out how to be of service in those communities and to address the issues that, have been put on a lot of these areas of service.